Hey guys, so real quick, the last 3 tournaments that I fished in as a co-angler, I finished 10th on the Super Tournament on Lake Erie, which I did a video about that. I can link that below so that you can check it out. And then I finished 11th at Indian Lake, and that was lucky. I had a really difficult practice, so finishing 11th was fantastic for me. And then at the regional, I finished 14th. So those are pretty good average, you know. Unfortunately, for the whole year, I think I finished 39th in points, which got me to the regional, and then I finished 14th there. I caught, I think, 2 fish on the first tournament, and then I blanked the next 2 tournaments. Now, these were on the Ohio River, and I have to say that the first tournament, I caught 9 bass on the Ohio River. All of them were 11 3/4 inches, so that's actually a lot of bass to catch on the Ohio River in general. So I actually felt like I had a good tournament. And then we fished Maysville, and Chris Martin Kovic was my boater, and he decided to make an 80-mile run, and we fished out of Maysville, and we ran to Tanner's Creek. I don't know if you know the Ohio River or not, but if you live in Ohio, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Or Indiana or Kentucky on the river, if you know those areas. That's an 80-mile run one way. You have to lock through a dam. And so we only had about 3 hours to fish. He only caught, I think, 2. He might have caught 3 fish. I can't remember. But he's a great fisherman. He thought we could win there. I said, yeah, let's do it. So totally, I was all in. It was a good decision. They just weren't there. Or we didn't catch them anyway. So those 2 tournaments hurt me badly. I was in 105th or 109th or something like that place. And then the Super Tournament, Erie, I came in 10th. That moved me up to 55th place, and then when I caught 3 bass on Indian, I actually came in 11th, and that put me in 39th place, I think, for the year. So not too bad. Out of 2 tournaments, basically turned my entire year around, went from 109th to 39th. That was pretty good. So, for the regional, actually, back up for a second, for the Indian Lake tournament, I caught every single fish in the canals, not punching, not frogging, not throwing anything up on the thick mats, but there was grass everywhere in these canals. I was throwing a Senko out in the middle of the canals. So it was actually a Sticko, not a Senko. And I'm not gonna lie, I borrowed the bait from my boater, and this is not the exact color, but it's pretty darn close. This is my favorite color, which I have confidence in. I didn't have it with me, but for Stickos, this is dark melon pepper, and as you can see, it's dark. The color that he had, that I borrowed, was blue swirl or blue craw or something like that. It basically had green pumpkin, blue swirl. And I think I caught like 5 fish on that. Spent half of the morning frogging and punching and not even getting bit. And then we went out in this canal, and I started throwing a Senko around, and sure enough, started catching fish. So I pre-fished for that 2 weeks ahead of time, and then I also pre-fished for it 2 days ahead of time. So I worked really hard. Never once did I throw a Senko in that pre-fishing. The practice, not once. So it was almost like a process of elimination to be able to get bit. And plus, my boater was throwing a Senko. And I don't think he was catching a lot of fish or anything like that, but timing-wise, it only made sense. I hate doing the exact same thing as somebody else, but there really wasn't anything else I could do except maybe throw a swim bait. But the point is, I tried it, I got bit, I obviously took advantage of that. The weird thing was these fish were right out in the middle of these canals. They were not up against the bank or up against the grass, I guess you would call it, the matted grass, or the lily pads. They were just right out in the middle, because you got lily pads on the side and then you got matted grass on the side, and a canal with a bunch of grass in it, but there's 2 to 3 to 5 feet of water with these little holes of pocketed water in the grass, and the grass is maybe 2 inches to 5 feet below you in the boat. So most of it's chewed up in the middle because that's where the boats go through. So really not something I would normally just try and fish out in the middle. Most of the guys fishing out there in the middle are trying to catch bluegill, crappie, or a sawguy. And I did actually end up catching a sawguy on a Senko in that tournament. But anyway, I ended up catching those fish and coming in 11th. And that was a tough tournament. I'm not gonna lie, that was really tough. So I was very happy with that. Got me to the regional. Super happy about that. Regional is 3 days. You've got 1 day of, or the first 2 days of everybody fishes, and then the last day is a cut, and the top 12 go to the last day to see who wins, basically. I came in 14th. I missed that cut by 4 ounces. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that. What I am going to talk about, though, is my good fortune on day 1 that I caught a nice 4-pound bass. I'll try and throw a picture up here for you real quick. And then the bait that I caught the 4-pounder on, off of a laydown tree. There's miles and miles of rock on Cherokee Lake. I'm sorry, we were on Cherokee Lake. Did I mention that? Cherokee Lake in Tennessee. Miles and miles of rock, and then 1 laydown. And my boater was throwing a topwater and fished the laydown with the topwater and didn't get bit. I threw this sucker in there. Just a Terminator spinnerbait. I believe it's 3/8 ounce, but these blades are so big that this thing does not move fast. I would think 3/8 ounce would be a bait I would be throwing shallow and fast, but this is actually shallow probably, but not fast, because these blades slow this sucker down. They're big. Creates a huge wake, and the only time I got a bite on this bait was when I threw it into not the middle of a tree, but the side of a tree, and it rolled over some branches, and boom, big old sucker grabbed it, and he had both hooks. So very fortunate. And I never throw a trailer hook either. So on the Ohio River, I throw shorter little Timmy Poe spinner baits with no trailer hook, and I will throw them into brush a lot. Just fish the Y's of laydown. This was kind of like that, actually, because I was literally just fishing the Y's of this tree, with the little branches catching on it a minute, and when it popped over those little branches, he grabbed it. My boater actually caught another fish out of that tree, but it was unfortunately short. And short is 14 inches. Had to be 15 inches down there, so I'm used to the 12-inch bass here, so it's really confusing sometimes. So that's the only fish I caught on day 1. The next day, I caught 2 fish. One I caught on a spook, which I also lost. And I have another video telling why I lost that spook, so if you want to go see that, I will link that down in the bottom too. And I lost that spook basically because of the knot I tied. I had braid to a leader for my topwater. But I had a Carolina rig. Actually, I had a little bit different of a rig, which I will show a video on how I set up. I call it the Don rig because I'm the only person I know that has ever fished this rig, and I've been fishing it for a really long time. It's very similar to other rigs that people throw. It's very similar to a Carolina rig, but it's not. And I'll get to that in another video. But basically, I had to retie like 5 times. I think I broke off 5 times because this is solid rock, and we were in a spot that on the map, if it's low pool, you can see there's a pool of water there that's probably 15 feet deep, and then it's just solid rock, dry land at low pool. Well, luckily we weren't low pool. We were about 11 feet down, but we weren't at low pool for wintertime. And there's about 3 to 5 feet of water above this little depression. So we were fishing this little pool, which was literally maybe, I don't know, I want to say about 70 yards long by 50 wide. And we'd throw it to the other side. They would come up schooling sometimes, and my boater would catch, or he caught at least 2, I think, on topwater. So I was throwing topwater as well, and did catch 1 on a topwater. But the first fish that I caught was on a Carolina rig, or the Don rig, which I'll show you. And I didn't have a lot of baits with me that I could throw on there. The only thing that I really had that was big enough, because everything I had was for a shaky head, was that sucker right there. Good old Zoom trick worm. Now I would throw this, I would dip the tip just barely in chartreuse, spike it, and I would spray it with garlic spray. Jack's juice, I believe, is the actual, that or Bang, I can't remember. And that is, I got a couple bites on that, but that was the only keeper that I had. And the keeper was a decent fish. I thought it was a 3-pounder, but it wasn't. It was probably about 2 1/4. And then the other fish I caught was little, I don't know. I had 312, and I was surprised because I thought I had more than that, but I had 312, and I ended up in 14th place. 4 pounds a day before 312, so it was 712, and I did have another fish on that I caught on a tube, and it came off. I think that it was short, so we're going to go with that because I don't really want to be depressed about that. So hopefully that one was short. If it was a spotted bass, it wasn't short, and I would have probably been in 6th place. But we're not gonna retrospect there. We're just gonna say I did the best I could. I landed 90% of the fish that I hooked. I caught probably only like 3 or 4 small fish. It was a really tough tournament. Not a lot of guys were catching fish. I mean, I came in 14th. I only caught 3 fish in 2 days. That tells you something. It was a really, really tough tournament. There were guys that blanked on day 1 that came in the top 10, I think, co-angler wise, because it was such a difficult day that when they had a boater that was around fish and they can fish, yeah, put some fish in the boat. So really, really tough tournament. I loved it. Actually, I had a lot of fun. I camped for the first 2 days, and then I stayed in a hotel after the first day of the tournament, and came home with a little bit of gas money, but not a ton of money, obviously. So now I'm looking forward to next year, and hopefully I'll have some videos that will show my planning for next year. And I think I might actually fish out of the front of the boat next year for FLW, so we'll see. But that's it. I just wanted to show you the baits that I use and what I caught them on, and that's about it. If you have any questions, or you just want to say anything to me at all, feel free to leave it in the comments. Please like and subscribe. I will try to get more videos out to help you guys out, especially if you're a co-angler. Even though I'm going to be from the front of the boat, I love co-anglers, and I think it's such a great way to get into this sport. I think that if I continue giving you guys information, it'll help you. So if you have any questions about being a co-angler, let me know. And that's all I got today. Talk to you later.